Good morning. I'd like to welcome you back to our second Anchored in the Word morning reflection and hope that you've had a good start to your week. Looking forward to digging into this passage of scripture with you. Today, the word that I want you to remember is the word perspective. And yesterday we did kind of an overview of the book. Today, what I want us to do is focus in on some perspective balance. And so let's all turn together to Ruth chapter 1. We're going to read verses 1 to 5 again, and then we're going to dig into this first little piece. So here's what the Word of God says, Ruth chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. Now, it came to pass in the day when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, the name of his wife Naomi, the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. She was left, and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died, both of them. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. Now, at this point in the book, we are reading about a great tragedy. And obviously, yesterday we saw kind of the whole piece of the story, and we saw that there is a happy ending to this book. But I'd like us to start with some perspective balance this morning. And this is the statement that I hope will stick with us. Some of life's greatest hardships are not our fault. Now, I want to say this before we dig into this. There are a lot of hardships we experience in life that are a direct result of the choices we make. There is a law of sowing and reaping. And so in Galatians it says, he that soweth to his flesh shall the flesh reap corruption. He that soweth to the Spirit shall the Spirit reap life everlasting. The book of Proverbs talks a lot about the consequences of sinful choices and unwise decisions. But there's another side. There are certain things in life that we experience that are not a result of our personal choices, but they're the result of living in a fallen world and being sinned against and living in a world where there's suffering. And that is part of this storyline that we're reading this morning. In verse number 1, when it says it came to pass that she lived in the days of the judges, it tells you something about the circumstances. They had a famine in the land. Well, the fact is that the things that they were going through were chaotic. And the chaos of that moment wasn't something that this woman and her family had brought upon themselves. They didn't choose to live during the time of the judges. It would have been great to have a life living during the time of a long reign of a prosperous king who established justice in the land, and people were doing what was right, and God's blessing was on them. But that was not the case for these people. And it's not the case for most people throughout most of human history. And then they were experiencing famine. That was a result of the choices the people were making and God's decision to punish the people, to judge the people because they were not following the Mosaic covenant. Then her husband makes a foolish decision. In verse 1, it says that he decides to bring his family and they sojourn in the country of Moab. Now, it never says that he consulted his wife and she said, let's do this. It just says that was his choice. And amazingly, Elimelech's name means my God is king. It actually is an example of him choosing to step away from God, his king, and to go to a land to find refuge in a foreign land with foreign gods. And there are several other hardships that were mentioned. One is that she loses her husband in this foreign land. It comes to pass that her husband dies and she was left and her 2 sons. So it emphasizes the loss. And then her 2 sons decide to marry foreigners. And when we use the word foreigner here, we have to remember these are pagans. These are people who are worshiping idols. This was an unequal yoke with unbelievers, if you want to put it that way. I mean, when Naomi says, go back to your father's house and to your father's gods, she's indicating that these were women that were not worshipers of the one true God, Jehovah, her God. They were worshiping foreign gods. But these were choices that her adult sons chose to make. And there's no indication that she approved of the decision that they made or that she encouraged the decision that they made. This is what they chose to do. And then in verse 5, she loses them as well. It says Mahlon and Chilion died, both of them, and the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. The point is that she was a person living in a desperate time. Difficulties abounded, and now she is isolated and alone. Well, what can we take away from this? Just a couple of simple thoughts. First, life is going to be filled with heartache and hardship. And the reason is because this is a fallen world. When we read the book of Ecclesiastes, we see lots and lots of scripture talking about the tragedy of life under the sun if it is not lived with an eternal purpose, an eternal perspective. And this is a fallen world. We can expect that bad things are going to happen in a fallen world. Secondly, the first thing that often settles in our mind when these difficulties arise is, what did I do to make God angry with me? That is where our mind often goes. And the simple truth is that that is not necessarily where we should go. God is not governing this world where everything that is bad that happens in the world is a direct result of a personal choice that we made, or everything that is good in the world that we enjoy is the result of something that we have earned. The fact is that God deals with us in grace, and God allows us to go through heartache, and God uses the heartache to accomplish his good purposes in our lives, to mature us and to strengthen us and to draw us closely to himself. And so the very first question that should settle in our minds should not be, did I do something that God is getting angry at me about and he's going to get me? But that doesn't mean that there aren't times for us to be self-reflective. But that self-reflection needs to be balanced. And so as we look at these verses, what we're going to see is that Ruth, the story of Ruth and Naomi and Boaz, it is about God's grace. It's not about Naomi earning God's favor or Ruth earning God's favor. It's about God's grace. And when we think about the evil that took place and the difficulties that this woman encountered, they were not necessarily the direct result of her sin. And we need to take those principles into how we look at our own lives. Remember, the word today is balance, balanced perspective. We want our perspective to be aligned with the way God actually governs his world. If this has been an encouragement to you, please take a moment to share that and share that with someone else who can be encouraged by it. And tomorrow, Lord willing, we'll go to part number 3. Have a blessed rest of your day. Bye now.